Yeah, hello everybody and greetings from my colleague Sandra Bengers. Many thanks for the opportunity to present our latest research on the topic determining sustainable transition paths using a multi-stakeholder decision support system here at the MIT Applied Energy Symposium. My name is Florian Siekmann and I work at the Institute for System Analysis and Technology Evaluation at the Institute of Energy and Climate Research of the Forschungszentrum Jülich in Germany. And I would like to start this presentation by introducing you to the context in which our research is embedded, and then guide you through our approach of utilizing MCDA as a method to identify sustainable transformation trajectories, focusing on the conceptual approach here. Okay, let's start. So I assume most of you have seen this slide before, and don't worry, I'm not planning to spend too much time on that. But what I would like to point out is that when we talk about sustainability, we usually refer to the SDGs as a framework the international community agreed upon, and which can serve as a guiding point for activities in research and policy. And an essential part of the internet transformation is to reduce reliance on fossil resources in sectors such as energy and agriculture. But what is often less obvious here is what these actually mean when we want to implement them in the regional or local context. And as part of the Energiewende and the Climate X strategy, Germany is currently confronted with the transformation of the Rheinische Revier. And that includes two concurrent national policies, namely the phase-out of coal energy and the national bioeconomy strategy. And in this connection, the advisory body, the so-called Coal Commission, recommended the implementation of a sustainable bioeconomy as a guiding concept for the structural change in the region. And here the Rheinische Revier represents a very interesting example. It is Europe's largest connected lignite deposit and therefore strongly affected by these two trends in the region. And transforming a region that's historically shaped by lignite mining to a sustainable bioeconomy leads to a complex implementation process and requires transformations of major existing resource systems, value networks, supply chain, but also governance systems. And this is also reflected in the high number and variety of stakeholders affected by, but also engaging with this transformation process. Here it's not a surprise that the Coal Commission also highlighted the need for developing policy instruments to support this policy-driven structural change. Because in contrast to several other transformation processes, the case here is mainly driven by policy and less caused by a market pull or technology push. And previous experience in the context of the Energiewende illustrated that historically rooted conflicting objectives influence decision-making and its outcome over time. And questions concerning the right balance of environmental protection and the use of resources, be it fossil or bio-based, are essentially political and societal in their nature. And they affect a large group of people. And that implies that any way to address that needs to deal with a variety of opinions of what is socially desirable. And decisions we make as a group here are fundamentally different to decisions we would do would take as an individual. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that decisions concerning future transformation paths will be contentious and need to consider divergent value systems. But on the other hand, it also opens up a window of opportunity to pursue this transformation and leave historically grown path dependencies. And as I mentioned, the bioeconomy has become an important guiding concept, and that not just in Germany. But what is the bioeconomy? And for the German Bioeconomy Council, it is defined as the knowledge-based production and utilization of biological resources to provide products, processes, and services in all sectors of trade and industry within the framework of a sustainable economic system. And although there are several other definitions out there, emphasizing varying aspects of our sectors. And what we can find is that most understandings of bioeconomy capture three different underlying visions. And the first one is the biotechnology one, which emphasizes an understanding based on research, development, and application of biotechnology, for instance, to increase energy productivity. Next, there is the bioresource vision, which is centered around production and conversion of biomass and biogenic resources to substitute fossil resources. And a third one, bioecology. And yeah, here the focus lies on biodiversity promotion and yeah, ecosystem conservation. And yeah, this distinction will be very useful for the later assignment of criteria during the application of the developed multi-criteria decision analysis approach, yeah, which I will introduce later in this presentation. So what do we know about social transformation processes? First of all, we do need the appropriate technology, but that's not the whole story, since techno-economically optimal solutions are rarely ever realized in exactly that manner. And we further know that stakeholder discourses and power constellations have a severe influence on decision-making processes, and yeah, that involved stakeholders act upon their subjective perceptions and interests. So when you try to develop transformation pathways and decide which one to pursue, it leads to a complex decision-making process that is determined by the stakeholders' dynamic interplay and yeah, needs to incorporate economic, social, and environmental considerations, which can be often conflicting objectives in that sense. For the intended transformation in the Rheinische Revier, that means we need to understand how the involved stakeholders perceive these changes, like what are their interests, what determines which plant a farmer will grow in the coming years, or whether or not they will adapt to new technologies. Or, on the other hand, what affected citizens will associate with a sustainable transformation. And yes, you can imagine transformation of that scale will have considerable effects on other aspects in the region as well. So yeah, how are we going to address this challenge? Obviously, I'm not doing all of that on my own, but as part of the project Transform to Bio. And yeah, I don't want to go into detail here, but since my daily work is embedded in this project and tries to synthesize different working packages here, yeah, it's kind of essential to give a quick overview here. Yeah, so briefly summarize, the working package 1 addresses the effects between global developments and their regional, national, as well as economical and political effects. Work package 2 evaluates the stakeholders and behavioral considerations. And yeah, as an output, it is planned that they deliver the stakeholder profiles together with weight decision criteria. The modeling approaches in work package 3 serve to identify a set of feasible transformation trajectories. You can think of them as scenarios. And yeah, those are integrating global as well as local developments. And yeah, I'm currently working on work package 4. And here the idea is to use a multi-stakeholder MCDA approach to synthesize the outcome of work package 2 and 3, so that the stakeholders' perceptions will explicitly feed into the development and choice of the following governance measures. And yeah, on the right side here, you can see an overview of which aspects are intended to be integrated. And yeah, using the multi-stakeholder, multi-criteria decision analysis approach, it is then aimed to identify transformation pathways that are desirable from a sustainability perspective, feasible from a techno-economical perspective, but also acceptable from a stakeholder consensus perspective. And yeah, why are we approaching it this way? The analytical background here is that often technology development occurs in a kind of sequential order, where there's first a techno-economical assessment, and yeah, as soon as it is feasible, there's a sustainability assessment. And then, sometimes quite late in the process, there might be challenges with respect to stakeholder consensus or problems with regard to acceptance. For instance, yeah, possibly resulting in some form of backlash. And to prevent that from happening, we propose a different approach by integrating stakeholder right in the beginning of the process by describing the transformation trajectories, and then analyze stakeholder-based decision criteria, yeah, mainly aimed to identify conflicts much earlier in the process, since the relative importance of the decision criteria will vary significantly among the various stakeholder groups. And yeah, to perform our MCDA, we need certain key components, and those include that we need a goal, yeah, like a future state of what we're aiming to achieve, which should be measurable and realistic. We further need criteria that illustrate the measurement of achievement of the goal we stated, and yeah, which are specified by the attributes we assign. Next, we require weights, and yeah, those allowing for integrating the stakeholder subjective perspectives. And yeah, there are various methods for determining the criteria weighting, and yeah, we'll do our approach during the upcoming slides. Additionally, we need to define alternatives, and those are the options for solving our decision problem. And in our case, those are represented by the different transformation pathways. and must be described with the relevant associated features. And last but not least, we need a suitable method as an evaluation model to reflect the decision maker's perspective and rank the alternatives from best to worst. And as pointed out, the goal in our case study is the implementation of a sustainable bioeconomy in the Rheinrevier. And here you can find, again, the 3 bioeconomy visions as dimensions within our goal hierarchy, namely technology, resource, and ecology. Those are then described by the associated criteria that highlight the different aspects striving for achieving the overall goal. Together, the weights for our MCDA, we use a survey and ask stakeholders to compare the relevance of certain aspects of the transformation process from their perspective. For instance, we ask what they consider as more important: increased energy productivity or a higher share of renewable energy resources in the electricity mix, or whether they regard both aspects as equally important. And the stakeholders then compare criteria via linguistic terms. And to account for the fact that people are often not able to express their preferences precisely, we translate the linguistic terms into fuzzy numbers using related membership functions. And that way we are able to better integrate these subjective stakeholder perceptions and use them as weights within our MS-MCDA approach. These stakeholder perceptions I just mentioned, but also descriptive criteria we identified with stakeholders and experts, feed into the development and quantification of the set of our feasible transformation trajectories. And besides that, as part of our project, we also identified key enabling technologies and several regional sample products that are of high relevance for the transformation in the region, such as biofuels, for instance. And as one of the next steps, we plan to pursue related impact evaluations and model the effects of widespread use of the different products and technologies, while also taking into account things like willingness to adapt to technologies in agriculture, or the willingness to pay in the consumer sphere. And to bring stakeholder perceptions and the developed transformation pathways together, we decided to use PROMETHEE as MCDA method. PROMETHEE has been successfully applied in various environmental decision-making contexts worldwide, and offers several benefits for our problem at hand here. Those include that we can integrate qualitative and quantitative indicators, which allow for a flexible integration of the subjective stakeholder perceptions. It is further relatively easy to understand and communicate, and can be used in an interactive fashion. And the other reasons include that it's only partial compensatory, which is also closer to the decision problem we are facing in the Rheinrevier. And it can be extended to a participatory group decision-making system, and thereby help us to find a potential compromise solution. To give you an idea how that might actually look like, I thought it would be a great opportunity to present you with a simplified version of an example here. And in this sample, you can see a table consisting of the possible transformation trajectories on the left and related criteria in the other columns. And on the weights, the stakeholder can assign how important a certain criteria is from their subjective perspective. And below that, we can see how the respective transformation trajectory performs with respect to the related criteria. And for one individual stakeholder, we would then have a result of which transformation trajectory would constitute the preferred one, which is represented in the graphic on the right side as the global preference flow. While this is useful as a first step, that does not yet help us to achieve an overall preference and identify what would be the most preferred, or like the compromise transformation trajectory for the region as a whole. And here the PROMETHEE group decision-making, group decision support system can be used. Applying the group decision support system would allow us to first perform the individual stakeholder assessment and gather the net flows for each stakeholder group, followed by an analysis using the comprehensive matrix of all stakeholders. And this procedure would then result in an overall ranking of the respective transformation trajectories and the desired compromise solution. To wrap things up, we believe that integrating stakeholder perceptions and social transformation processes is crucial. And the multi-stakeholder, multi-criteria decision analysis approach we are developing here constitute a constructive contribution to foster mutual understanding between stakeholders, and can also help to support a transparent decision-making process for the implementation of a sustainable bioeconomy in the Rheinrevier. And yeah, besides that, we hope that by understanding how this transformation in the Rheinische Revier as a model region works, we will be able to extract valuable insights that can be beneficial for other regions facing similar transitions as well. And yeah, before I close, I would like to share this quote with you. In many cases, those who claim to shed light objectively on a decision in fact take a stand, consciously or unconsciously, for an a priori position or for a prevailing hypothesis, which they then seek to justify. And I think, yeah, especially when we utilize MCDA methods in a policy context, we should keep that in mind and point out that, yeah, when we talk about decision aid or decision analysis, yeah, even though MCDA provides the scientific basis for decision making, related approaches obviously also face limitations. And yeah, the overall accountability remains within the responsibility of the humans actually taking decisions. Here I selected a few references in case you would like to dig deeper into the topic. And yeah, with that, I'm at the end of my presentation. Many thanks for your attention, and yeah, to the organizing team for making this event possible. And now I'm looking forward for an interesting discussion. Thank you.